She stood in the ruins of King's Landing. The air was thick, not with fire anymore, but with silence, a silence that screamed louder than the people who once filled the streets. Daenerys breathed in deep, chest rising slowly, eyes blank. She had done it. She had won. The Iron Throne was hers. But where was the joy? Where was the light in her heart? All she felt was a deep hole, like victory had swallowed something inside her. Behind her, unsullied soldiers cheered. Dothraki screamed, in wild joy. The queen they followed had crushed the city under dragon fire. No mercy, no surrender, just flame and death. She had freed the world, she told herself. Then Tyrion walked up to her. His face wasn't smiling. He held the hand of the queen pin in his hand. Without a word, he tossed it to the ground at her feet. She looked at him, hurt, confused. "You burned children," he said quietly. Daenerys narrowed her eyes. "They were loyal to Cersei." Tyrion's voice trembled. "They were afraid, just like I was, just like you were. Once." Daenerys turned her back on him. She didn't want to hear it. She had been alone for too long. She had fought too hard. People who didn't understand didn't deserve to speak. Far behind her, Jon Snow stood watching. His face didn't move. His eyes didn't blink. He had watched it all, from the skies as Drogon painted fire over the innocent. He watched Daenerys give the order. And now, he didn't know who she was anymore. Or maybe he did. Maybe this was who she had always been. Maybe love made him blind. His hands curled into fists. But he didn't speak. Daenerys turned, catching his eye. For one brief second, her cold expression cracked. She took a step forward, then another. Slowly, she walked up to Jon. The cheering behind her faded away. All she saw was him. All he saw was her. "You still love me after what I did?" she asked. Jon's jaw tightened, his voice low, heavy, quiet. "I don't know." Her lips moved, but no words came. Her heart was full, yet empty. This was supposed to be their victory. Together. Her dream, his loyalty, their future. She reached out her hand, but didn't touch him. "I did this for us," she said. Jon didn't move, didn't blink. "You did this for power." And then, silence again. That kind of silence that tells you something is breaking. And this time, it wasn't just the city. It was trust. It was love. It was whatever held them together. She turned away, but her shoulders were shaking. And Jon, he watched her walk away. And he finally knew. He had to make a choice. Later that night, Jon walked down the long stone hall. His footsteps were slow, heavy, like he was carrying something that couldn't be seen. His thoughts? His guilt? Maybe both. Outside Daenerys's chamber, two unsullied guards stood tall. They looked at him, but they didn't move, didn't blink, just like statues. He gave them a nod. They opened the door. Inside, Daenerys was standing alone, looking out the window. Her silver hair fell across her back, but her shoulders looked tired, broken even. She didn't turn when he walked in. "You came," she said. Jon stepped forward, slow, careful. "We need to talk." She turned to face him. Her eyes looked softer than before, still fierce, but lost. "You've been avoiding me." He didn't. "Answer that." She took a deep breath. "They hate me, don't they?" He paused. "They fear you." She looked away. "Good. That means they'll listen." Jon's face twisted. "Is that what you want now? Fear?" "I want peace," she snapped. "But peace never comes easy. You know that." Jon looked at her like he didn't know who she was anymore. "Not like this. Not by fire." She stepped, closer. "You're a Targaryen, like me. You know what it takes. I know what it cost." A silence sat between them for a moment. Then she reached for his hand. This time, she touched him. "We were meant to rule together, Jon. You and me. This world's broken. We fix it." He didn't pull away, but he didn't hold her back either. "You're not fixing it," he said. "You're burning it." She stared at him, pain in her eyes, then something colder. "And what would you have me do? Forgive them? Let the ones who followed Cersei rebuild?" He shook his head slowly. "I'd have you remember who you are." Daenerys let go of his hand. "You're afraid of what I've become," she said quietly. "But I've always been this. You just didn't want to see it." Before Jon could speak, the door creaked again. Arya stood at the entrance, her voice sharp. "She'll never stop." Daenerys narrowed her eyes. "You again." Arya stepped in. "You burned mothers, children. That wasn't war. That was a warning. And next time, it'll be Winterfell." Jon raised a hand. "Arya, enough." But Arya's eyes never left Daenerys. "You know what you have to do, Jon." Then she turned and walked out, silent like a ghost. Daenerys stared after her, breathing hard. Jon didn't speak, but as he walked out the chamber, heart pounding, he didn't see the shadow behind the wall. Missandei's old maid, still loyal, listening, and when Jon closed the door behind him, Daenerys smiled. Not a happy smile, not even sad, just knowing. Morning came like a quiet knife. No birds, no sounds of children playing, just the wind moving ashes. Daenerys sat alone in the old throne room, not on the Iron Throne, just close to it. Her hands were shaking, though she wouldn't admit it. She stared at the metal chair that had caused so much pain, as if waiting for it to speak. Then Grey Worm entered, holding a small scroll. He didn't speak, but handed it to her. She opened it slowly. Her eyes moved from left to right. Then they froze. It was Varys's handwriting. Her breath stopped. These were copies of the letters Varys had sent before his death. Letters telling the truth about Jon Snow. His blood, his name, his right to the throne. She stood up fast. The scroll dropped to the floor. "Who gave you this?" she asked. Grey Worm's face was like stone. "The maid. She found it in Tyrion's old room, hidden under the bed." Daenerys walked to the window. "So it's true. He told them. He told Tyrion. He told Arya." Grey Worm didn't answer. Then Daenerys turned slowly, her voice low. "And he told me. He didn't want the throne." Grey Worm stayed silent. He didn't know what to say. Daenerys whispered to herself. But he told someone. He made himself a threat. She picked up the scroll again and read one last line that hit her hard. "He is the true king." Her breath grew heavy. Suddenly, a second knock came at the door. This time a soldier entered. Nervous, scared. "My queen," he said, "spies in the lower court. They say Jon Snow met with Arya again, in secret. They say he's questioning your rule." Daenerys' voice cracked. "He promised me. He swore loyalty." Grey Worm stepped forward. "We can take him now, quietly." She didn't answer. She looked down at her hands. These same hands once held baby dragons. These same hands once gave freedom to slaves. Now, they were shaking with rage, with heartbreak, with betrayal. "I gave him my heart," she said. "I gave him everything." She walked slowly to her dragon banner on the wall. Then she turned. "Bring him to me. Alive, but in chains." Grey Worm bowed. "Yes, my queen." As he left, Daenerys stood still. The light from the broken windows fell on her face. Not warm, not cold, just broken. When Jon was taken, he didn't fight. He didn't ask why. He just looked down, as if he knew, as if he expected this moment to come. When he was pushed to his knees before her, chains on his wrists, he looked up slowly. Daenerys stepped toward him. She said only one thing. "You're becoming the thing you hated." Jon looked her in the eyes and replied, "No, you are." And just like that, the last string between them snapped. The room was quiet. Too quiet, like the air was holding its breath. Jon Snow knelt before Daenerys, wrists bound in cold iron chains. His face was tired. His eyes were not angry, not scared, just done. Daenerys stood above him. No crown, no throne. No army around her, just him, just her. She took a long breath. Her voice came out soft. Not like a queen, like a woman hurt. "Why, Jon? After everything I gave you, why?" Jon looked up at her slowly. "Because I loved you." Her breath caught. He kept speaking. "And I still do. But love isn't loyalty. Not when it means silence." Daenerys stepped closer, her voice trembling now. "So you told them about your blood?" "I didn't want it," he said. "I never did." "Then why not stay silent?" she asked. "Why not let me rule?" "Because ruling with fear isn't ruling," he answered. "It's surviving. It's winning the throne just to lose your soul." She shook her head. "You don't understand what it takes. You never have. I was never going to be loved like you. I had to be fire. I had to burn." Jon's voice dropped to a whisper. "Then burn me." Silence. Just like that, the kind that cuts the heart. She stared at him. Her hands shook. "I don't want to lose you," she said. "I don't want to do this." "You already did," Jon replied. Her eyes welled up. For a moment she looked like the girl who once dreamed of freedom. The girl who freed slaves, who walked through fire with nothing but hope. But then her face hardened. "Swear to me," she said. "Swear loyalty. Bend the knee. Forget your name. Forget your blood." Jon looked away, then looked back. "No." She closed her eyes, then nodded. A guard stepped forward. "Grey Worm," Daenerys raised her hand. "Take him to the dragon pit." Grey Worm didn't flinch. He grabbed Jon and dragged him to his feet. Jon didn't struggle. As he was led away, Daenerys turned her back. Her voice was almost a whisper. "If I can't have your heart, I'll take your silence." And the doors closed behind him. As the guards marched him out, people in the halls stared in silence. Some cried, some turned away. But no one spoke. He was no longer their hero. He was a traitor, or maybe a martyr. But Daenerys... She walked to the window, the one that overlooked the ruined city. She whispered to herself, "If love makes me weak, then let fire make me strong." And outside, Drogon waited, breathing slow, breathing deep. The sky was dark above the dragon pit, not with clouds, but with silence. A silence that made even the strongest guards look over their shoulders. Jon Snow was dragged in chains across the old stone floor. His feet barely moved. He wasn't afraid. Or maybe he was, but he didn't show it. Drogon stood on the edge of the pit, wings tucked, head low, watching, like he already knew what was coming. Daenerys stood in front of him now, cold, fierce, but her eyes, they were full of something else. Pain. She stepped closer to Jon, looked into his face. "You could have had it all," she said. "The throne, me, everything." Jon raised his head. "I didn't want everything. I just wanted you, before all this." Her jaw tightened. "And now," he didn't blink, "now I just want peace, for the people, even if I'm not in it." She stepped back, raised one hand. "Dracarys," she said. Not loud, not soft, just final, and Drogon moved. His eyes glowed, his mouth opened, heat filled the air. And then, fire, river of flame, straight toward Jon Snow. The ground shook. Guards stepped back. Arya, hidden in the shadows above, covered her mouth. Tyrion, watching from a tower, turned away. And Daenerys, she didn't look away. She watched, she forced herself to. But Jon didn't scream, he didn't run, he didn't cry, he just stood there. And the fire swallowed him whole. Seconds passed, long seconds. And then something strange happened. The fire stopped, not because Drogon was tired, but because Drogon stopped it himself. He tilted his head, growled low. Daenerys stepped forward, confused. The smoke began to clear. The air still burned, and then Jon's body fell to its knees, then collapsed, face first. Silent, dill-blackened chains. No movement. Worm stepped forward, touched his neck, then looked up. He's gone. Daenerys said nothing, but her hands were shaking. Tyrion sat alone in the dark tower, whispering to himself, "It didn't have to be this way." Arya closed her eyes, a tear falling down. But Daenerys? She just turned away, tried to walk, tried to breathe. But the fire, it had whispered something, something she couldn't explain. A voice inside the flames. One word. Her name. Days passed. The city didn't sing. It didn't heal. It just waited for something no one could name. Daenerys sat on what remained of the Red Keep. Not the Iron Throne. It had melted in the chaos. She ruled from silence now, from fear, from distance. But even fear has its limits. A quiet knock came to her chamber door. It was Tyrion. He walked in slowly without his handpin. He had removed it the day she burned the city. She didn't greet him. He didn't bow. They just stared. "You killed him," Tyrion said. Daenerys didn't flinch. "He chose betrayal." Tyrion stepped closer. Or maybe he chose truth. Her eyes narrowed. "You came to mourn." "No," he said. "I came to warn." Daenerys raised an eyebrow. "Of what?" Tyrion held up a small letter. "There are whispers. Northern lords heard of Jon's death. They're calling it murder." "I am queen," she said sharply. "Power means nothing if no one believes in it," Tyrion replied. Daenerys turned away. Let them whisper. But the words hit her. They stayed. That night she walked the hall alone. No guards, just thoughts. She passed Grey Worm. He nodded, but even his eyes looked uncertain. Then she entered her old war room. There, sitting on the table, was something she hadn't seen in days. Jon's sword, Longclaw, burned at the edges, but untouched in the middle. She reached for it, hand trembling, the moment her fingers brushed it. A voice. Soft. In her mind. "You chose fire," she gasped, dropped the sword. It clanged on the stone. She backed away, heart pounding. The room stayed still. Empty, but she wasn't. She was full of fear now. Not of enemies, of herself. Next morning, Grey Worm brought more news. 2 soldiers left during the night. Disappeared, Daenerys asked. "Why?" Grey Worm hesitated. "They say they saw something. In the pit." Her voice turned cold. "What did they see?" They said. He moved. Silence. Daenerys laughed once. A broken sound. "Ghost stories now?" Grey Worm looked uneasy. "They were loyal men." She stepped forward. "Find them. If they lie, bring me their tongues." He nodded, but not like before. Even he was starting to wonder. Later that night, Daenerys stood in front of a mirror. Her own eyes stared back, but she didn't recognize them. And when she turned to leave her room, a raven's feather lay on her table. Black, soft, cold, and she knew. Someone had been here. Someone who wasn't supposed to be alive. The wind howled that night across the north wall. A lone soldier ran toward the gates of the castle, breath short, eyes wide. His armor was scratched, his sword gone, but his voice was steady. "I saw him," he said. The other guards stared at him. "Saw who?" The soldier's voice dropped. "Jon Snow." Laughter came from one man. Another shook his head. "He's dead," someone said. "We all saw the smoke." But the young soldier swore again. His chains were melted, but he stood. He walked toward the old woods. "I swear it. I saw him." The room went quiet. Nobody laughed after that. Word spread fast, not through couriers, not by paper, but by mouths, faces. By wide eyes in small rooms. They said he had no wounds. They said his hair had turned darker. They said he didn't blink when the wind blew snow into his face. They called him many names. The burned one, the fire ghost, the king, that death, rejected, and Daenerys. She heard it all, every whisper, every tale. She sat at the head of her table surrounded by advisors, but she didn't speak. She just stared. One man finally said, "My queen. If he is alive—" "He's not," she said. "But I burned. Him," she said louder. "My dragon. My fire. There was nothing left." Then her voice dropped again. "But they keep talking." She stood and walked away. She couldn't breathe. Couldn't sleep. That night, a voice came to her again. In her dreams, Jon's voice, "You burned me." She woke in sweat, heart pounding. The next morning, Arya arrived. No guards had seen her enter. She stood in Daenerys' chamber without fear. "You should have used a sword," Arya said. Daenerys stared. "You think he's alive?" "I don't need to think," Arya said. "I've seen the path. He walks it now." Daenerys laughed bitterly. "And where does this path lead?" Arya stepped closer. "To you." Arya dropped something on the floor. A stone. Black. Warm, Daenerys picked it up. It pulsed, faint, like a heartbeat. "What is this?" she asked. Arya turned to leave. "Just a reminder," she said, "that fire doesn't always destroy. Sometimes it wakes something worse." Then she was gone, and Daenerys stood alone, her hands trembling, and deep inside her chest, a memory came back. The fire, the moment Jon fell, and the voice she swore she heard. "I forgive you." The kingdom was restless, not loud, not shouting, but cold, silent, like something was crawling underneath it all. Daenerys stood on the balcony of what was left of her red keep. The city below didn't cheer anymore. The people moved fast, heads down, no eye contact, no joy, just survival. Her power was there, but it was shrinking. Grey Worm came to her. His armor was worn. His eyes looked older now. "The soldiers," he said. "Some have stopped wearing your crest." She didn't answer. He continued, voice quiet, like he didn't want her to hear it either. "One group left last night, took boats, headed west." Daenerys looked out to the sky. No words. No rage. Just that creeping silence again. She whispered, "They don't see what I've given, only what I've taken." Grey Worm didn't argue. Instead, he spoke softly. "They say Jon lives." She turned, fast. "Do you believe that?" He hesitated. That was enough of an answer. She stepped back. "You doubt me now?" "I serve you," he said, "but I see your face. You haven't slept, you haven't smiled, since the fire." "I lost everything," she said. "He made me choose between love and rule. I chose fire. Did it make you stronger? He asked. Her eyes burned, but she didn't respond. Later, she walked alone into the dragon pit. Drogon was there, sleeping. Maybe pretending. She stood before him, whispered, "You felt it, didn't you? The dragon didn't move." "You didn't burn him?" Still, no sound. She stepped closer, laid a hand on Drogon's side. "Did you know he'd survive?" The dragon opened one eye. Deep, old, sad. She felt her heart drop. That night, she saw him, again, in the mirror. Not behind her. Not outside. Inside. Her own face. Changed. Tired. Lost. Like she didn't know who she was anymore. And then Jon's voice again. "You never wanted the throne. You wanted love." She turned, angry, screamed, threw the mirror to the ground. It shattered, but her reflection stayed, still watching her from the broken pieces. The next morning, Grey Worm entered her chamber. He dropped to one knee. Not in loyalty. In struggle. "I can't follow you anymore," he said. She stared. He looked up, tears in his eyes. "You're not the breaker of chains. You're building new ones." He walked out, left his sword on the floor. Daenerys didn't call after him, didn't beg, didn't cry. She just stood still and whispered again, "If Jon truly lives." She didn't finish the sentence, but her hand moved, toward her armor, toward her dragon's saddle, toward the war that never really ended. The cold wind bit hard as Daenerys flew north on Drogon's back. She didn't wear her crown, didn't wear her old smile. She wore only silence. Below, the trees of the north passed by like black shadows. Mountains rose like ghosts. And then she saw it, a clearing, a figure standing still. No army, no sword, just a man. Drogon circled once. Daenerys closed her eyes, breathed deep, then landed. The ground crunched as she stepped down. Jon stood there, alive, whole, but not the same. His hair was longer, his clothes darker, his eyes different. They didn't shine like they used to. They watched her like she was a stranger. Daenerys stared at him, her voice low. "You should be dead." Jon replied, "Maybe I am." Silence. She stepped closer. "You lived through dragonfire." "How?" He didn't answer. She asked again. "Why?" This time he said, "Fire doesn't burn what it remembers." She froze. What does that mean? Jon looked past her. At Drogon. "He didn't burn me. He freed me." Daenerys shook her head. "I gave you a chance. You threw it away." "No," Jon said. "I threw away your fear. You ruled with fire, Dany. Not love." "I had no choice," she said. "You always had a choice," he replied. Silence again. Then she stepped closer, just inches from him, tears in her voice now. "I didn't want to kill you." "I know," Jon said. "I wanted us." "I know." She reached for him. Her hand almost touched his face, but he stepped back. Her fingers stopped in the air, then curled slowly into a fist. "You came here to kill me," she said. "No," he answered. "I came here to stop you." Her voice rose. "With what? Your words?" Jon said nothing, but Drogon moved behind him. Slow, careful. Daenerys turned, confused. Her dragon wasn't standing with her. Not this time. He bowed his head. To Jon. "Daenerys," gasped. "What are you doing?" Jon didn't smile, didn't move. He just said, "He knows the truth." She shouted, "I am your mother." But Drogon didn't lift his head, didn't roar, didn't burn. He just waited. Daenerys fell to her knees. Not in pain, not in defeat, but in understanding. All this time she thought the throne was hers by fire. But fire had chosen differently. Daenerys knelt in the snow. Her hands didn't shake anymore. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just sat there, as if the war in her chest had finally gone quiet. Jon stood a few feet away, watching, waiting. Drogon didn't move. He just lay beside them, like the world had ended, and he was the last thing that understood both of them. Daenerys looked up at Jon. "I'm alone now," she said. Jon nodded slowly. "We both are." She tried to smile. "I thought power would make me strong. But it made me small." He stepped closer. "You wanted to break the wheel," he said. "I became the wheel," she whispered. They stood there for a while, just breathing, just existing. Then Daenerys rose to her feet, removed the last piece of Targaryen armor from her shoulders, dropped it to the ground. "What now?" she asked. Jon looked to Drogon, then back to her. "I'm not going back," he said. "I'm not taking a throne. I'm not claiming anything." "Then what are you?" she asked. Jon stepped into the falling snow. "I'm what's left when fire forgets its name. Some say she vanished that day. No army saw her leave. No soldier reported her death, but Drogon was seen flying west, far beyond the broken kingdoms, and on his back, a rider in silence. Maybe it was her. Maybe it wasn't. Jon never returned to Winterfell. He walked north, far north, past the wall, past the last trees, into lands untouched. He spoke to no one, took no crown. But the people who saw him said the same thing, that fire moved in his eyes, that death had left him with something else, and that when he walked by, birds went silent. They called him many names, but he answered to none. Tyrion wrote the history. He told what he could, he left out what he must, and when Arya stood at his door years later, holding a feather in her hand, she only said, "He's still watching." Tyrion didn't ask who. He didn't have to. The realm slowly healed. A new king rose. Peace came. But in the quiet corners of the world, in places untouched by maps, they tell stories of a woman who flew west on a dragon's back and a man made of fire and silence. They say they burned together, then vanished, but some say they still walk the world, not as rulers, but as memory.